Hello and welcome to this edition of Newsmakers, The Road to Success here on My Fox 8 Plus. I'm Neil McNeil. So glad to have you with us. Now, you're about to watch the second part of my recent extended conversation with Joey Cheek, the Executive Vice President of Entrepreneurship for the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce. Now, before he moved back to his hometown, you may recall he became world famous for winning gold, silver, and bronze medals in Olympic speed skating before venturing into the world of starting his own businesses. In fact, we pick up our conversation about the time when he had finished competing, had gotten a degree in economics from Princeton, and moved to New York to start his first company, which he calls a terrible failure.
And so this was very heady times. I left Princeton, where all of my friends are going to Wall Street.
Right.
They all are, they all run hedge funds and stuff now, but they were all leaving, going to Wall Street. It felt like, great, I've cracked the code. I moved to New York to start my first company. And so there's a lot of hubris. And I think, well, I've nailed it on everything I've done so far. This will be the same. And that is the seeds of destruction. Because there is nothing in my mind harder than trying to start a successful company.
Right.
I actually think it's hard. I think it's harder than the Olympics. Maybe that's because I've had even bigger success in the Olympics.
Okay, I was going to ask, why is it harder than preparing to win an Olympic gold medal?
This is my feeling, my opinion only. The thing about the Olympics is it's actually very clear what you need to do, right? So speed skating, 500 meters, I will race one straightaway, one lap. It'll take about 34 seconds. Right. Everyone's going to be within a few tenths of a second. We're always going to go left. I know exactly when we're going to do it. It's going to be on February, 13th, blah, 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 blah. I know
always counterclockwise,
It's so clear. Now, you train for it, and there might be some variations, but there's also real prior art. Essentially, there's a few different training methods, and some work for some people and some work for others, but it's not that different. It's not that varied.
Yeah.
There's only so many hours a day. All right, I'll train 7 hours a day. You can't train 8 because now you're overtraining. You can't train 6 because now you haven't quite maximized.
Right.
That's what I'll do.
Yeah.
It's really clear. It's easy. Now you want to start a company. Great. What are you going to sell? I could sell
streaming. What's that?
And that's what I started with, streaming sports. Actually, I started with a blog. It started off a sports blog for Olympic sports.
Okay.
And it's great.
Right. Okay.
The things I wanted to, this was the underlying thread that I still think is valid. The best stories about the Olympics are the ones that we would tell each other around the hotel bar when I was old enough to go to a bar, right? Like the stories you hear after the fact. Like if you were to sit and listen to Dan Jansen and Bonnie Blair or Eric Hyde tell stories.
Incredible conversation.
Glorious. And the ones in private are the ones that they're not going to say on air. And it's fascinating.
Yeah.
I wanted to tell those stories. That was the original idea.
Kind of similar to what we're doing here, which I find interesting.
I like to think I was a little ahead of my time on it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
But we've reached the first problem, right? Okay, that's a great idea.
How do you make money?
Yeah. At the time, subscriptions were not a thing. It was peak, you got to do this for free. Everything's free.
Right.
Go get people. You'll do ads one day. So how are we going to make money? What's the business model?
Right.
How are you going to get enough people to tell these stories? So right away, you run into that. I got a big Rolodex, but at some point, I'm not going to write you another article. Oh, I'm going to run out of content.
Right.
How am I going to get found? The internet is a huge place.
Yeah.
And about 3 weeks after the Olympics, people forget the Olympics. So how are we going to have people Googling you? How are you? So I didn't know what I was going to sell. I didn't know how I was going to get to market. I didn't know how to price it. I didn't know how much it would cost. I didn't know how hard it would be. And I honestly didn't even have a vision aside from, I like these stories, maybe other people will.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's enough.
And I bet it was really hard going to people asking for money.
Oh, miserable.
For a new medium.
Miserable. And I was bad at it then.
Okay.
I was great. Actually, to this day, I'm better at asking for money for other people than I am for myself.
Yeah, I understand.
Actually, I'm pretty darn good at asking for money for other people. So that's sort of become my hallmark. We'll talk about it in my current career. It's actually one of the things I like most about my job now. But I was bad at all the pieces.
Right.
And they were incredibly valuable lessons, but they were the unbelievably painfully won.
Yeah.
It was
before we leave this topic, and you may have touched on it, and I was doing other things and I missed it over the last few seconds. What exactly was Sportsman Media? What did you hope to stream?
Yeah, and we ultimately ended up calling Sports Snap. But what we ultimately ended up with, so we evolved, and what we had was a streaming media platform. So what I realized was, I can't get all this content by asking people. I run out of people.
Yeah.
We wanted to give power to everyone else to be able to capture these moments. And what we thought was, you can see NFL, NBA, MLB on TV, great.
Right.
you couldn't at the time see your kid's swim meet, your kid's soccer game, your speed skating meet. You couldn't see them. Streaming was sort of just starting.
Right.
And so I built an app that would allow you to stream from your mobile device. Sounds wild now. Everybody can do it on Instagram. But at the time, there was only one or two other apps doing it. And so we built a streaming app for small sports on your phone. Early days.
Small
pre-5G.
sports.
Like big numbers of kids, but small coverage in media.
Okay.
So, for example, any parent could go to a soccer field and stream their kid's soccer game. And
How
grandma
cool
could
is
tune in.
that? Yeah.
Again,
If you were launching it today, do you think it would be?
Oh, I do it totally different, and I think I could probably pull it off now.
Yeah.
Now that I've had
That's
10
what
years
I
of
was thinking.
scar tissue
And I'm
starting.
thinking all the soccer moms out there,
Yep.
and as popular as TikTok, Facebook,
Yep.
Insta.
Yeah. So the big difference. Here, you want to know here? I'll tell you a secret. Anyone watching, you go do it. Come to launch. Come to launch Greensboro. I'll help you build it, but I'm not going to do it right now. It's exhausting. You start with one sport, and you'd be really good at one sport. I started with every sport.
So you need to find a niche.
You got to find a niche.
Yeah.
Find a niche in which you already have enough people that you can get distribution.
Right.
So, as ridiculous, speed skating, you'll never make money, but at least everyone in speed skating knows me. I could tomorrow have every speed skater using my app.
Right.
Great. I'm getting feedback, and now at least I own a little market. Then I
Right.
could go to investors and go, next we're going to get, hockey and field hockey and so. I would build a strategy that grows. You'd still grow fast.
Right.
But you go vertical by vertical. I started with everything.
Yeah.
And you're trying to build interfaces for everything, scoring. It's impossible.
So this streaming platform failed.
Yeah.
You also started a second company called Smart Solar, which I believe you told me residential solar power.
Residential solar sales, yeah.
You ended up selling that back to your co-founder.
Yeah,
Why?
exited back. A lot of reasons. It was not the right fit for me to. I started with what you'd call a startup studio. So it's venture capital, but it's like a venture studio.
Okay.
And so I was an entrepreneur in residence, so I spent a year learning how they build companies.
Right.
And then you launch a company, you present it to your partners, and they give you the yes or no, and then we started the business, and I launched it up and then exited a couple years after.
Yeah.
Philosophically, we just thought differently about how to build companies.
All right.
And I'll say this, that firm that I was with, it was the first time I saw excellence in company building, and I saw how we created businesses, and I saw how they scaled businesses, and a light bulb went off, and I said, oh, this was what I was missing. In sports, I had all the best coaches. I knew how to train. I knew everything I needed. Watching them build companies, and I saw them scale a company from 0 to $10 million a year in annual recurring revenue in 9 months.
Yeah.
So from brand doesn't exist, 9 months later, they were doing 10 million plus a year, and it only grew from there.
Right.
But I saw how they created companies, and I thought, this is incredible.
Yeah.
There is a science, but it's hard to see because there's so much noise out there.
Right. I want to fast forward a little bit and start talking about your moving back to Greensboro. But before we get there, I wanted to ask you this question. You have said life in Greensboro beats Denver, Los Angeles, New York City, or any of the other places you've lived. So what does Greensboro offer or have that these other places don't?
Yeah. So the big thing for me is I moved back with my wife and my then less than 1-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And he's going to turn 5.
They're over your left shoulder
There we
there.
go.
Yeah, there they are.
This little guy, this was Christmas in Summerfield. That's a great example, right?
Yeah.
What a quality of life to raise a kid.
Summerfield, northwestern Guilford County.
Yeah, exactly.
Greensboro,
but anywhere, Greensboro. When we left Denver, where we were living when we had him,
Yes.
so you could do 2 things in a day, right? You could do something for the morning and then something in the afternoon, and the rest of the time you're in traffic, so it's, whatever. And everything is 3x more expensive, and it's a big city, and it's a city of expats.
Yeah.
It's colder. It's both literally colder, but it's hard to, it's just not friendly.
Yeah, you were telling me traffic's a big issue,
It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. I mean, I love skiing. I do miss that
because
every day.
I have some friends who've moved to Denver and they sing its praises, but you're the first I've heard saying
there are people leaving. I
Yeah.
think the influx is still net positive to Denver because there's a lot that's happening there, and there's a lot that's happening there. It's a great place for it's a great place for careers. I think the VF people would argue it wasn't the best move. But we get here and we have a great place right by Lake Jeanette. It's I go running by the lake, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna stop you right there.
Yeah.
But, all right. Let's talk about what brought you to Greensboro, and because that is such a great story. So you and your family are living in Denver.
Yeah.
You've got your boxer. You've got your wife.
Yeah.
you've got your son. And this process started, I believe, right when COVID hit. Correct
that's right.
me if I'm wrong.
That's right. I mean, for me, that wasn't a factor. I was fine.
Yeah, we're fine. And
but my wife for sure. The big factor was we wanted to be near family.
Yeah.
My mom's still here. My brother. Yeah, I got tricked.
So you make the drive across country to see your mom at Christmas, I believe?
Yeah, no, was it Christmas? I think it was a little after.
Okay.
But I was taking a month doing remote work because
Okay.
I could be doing my company stuff wherever. And let's take a month. We're not going to be in Denver, but we don't know where.
Right.
Pack up the car. We're all loaded in. We're driving cross country. And we get there and we're exhausted because we've been traveling with a dog and a kid and a Jeep with a roof box. We're like, it's awful. And we hop out. And everybody's so excited and they all run. And I look, I'm like, oh, son of a gun. We're not leaving. I got tricked.
You just had that feeling right at that moment.
I had that feeling. So it's just an amazing quality of life. We get here and it's just easy to do stuff. We can go to the Children's Museum, we go to the Science Center, we can do all the things that we love.
Right.
It's so fast, there's no traffic, we've got family. We've made more friends here quickly, and not just like friends I knew.
Yeah.
More friends here quickly than anywhere we've ever lived.
No kidding.
Absolutely.
And that certainly says a lot about this area. So you decided to stay, and I do want to give a shout out to your lovely wife,
me too.
Tamara,
Yep.
who was an athlete herself.
She's an incredible athlete,
She competed in the 2000 Summer Olympics in Sydney, a competitive speed kayaker.
She races kayaks, that's right. Yep.
Does she still get out on the kayak?
She does not. I keep trying to get her to go back out. She's finally said she might.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of PTSD for a lot of athletes post-career.
Yeah,
it is hard for them to get back in.
I can understand that.
Yeah, she's incredible. We have both hoped that our son would get the best parts of both of us and not the worst parts of both of us. We think he probably has.
Yeah.
She's an amazing athlete.
Yeah.
Unbelievable physical, unbelievably strong.
Very quickly, how did you two meet? How did you two get together?
We were both on the board of the U.S. Olympic Alumni Association. Ooh. So we met in very romantic conference rooms at the airport Hilton in Chicago O'Hare with 10 other Olympic athletes. The coolest story about that, though, was the reason both of us were in that organization. We were both roped in by Dick Fosbury.
Okay.
The track and field athlete who did the Fosbury flop. The guy who invented going backwards over the high jump.
Okay.
So a legend in Olympic history is the reason that we're together. So it's pretty fun. We tell that story. And he's unfortunately recently passed, but we loved every time we saw him, and then when we had Jack, we said, this is your fault. We got this little guy.
Jack is how old is Jack now?
He will be 5 in July.
And you've talked about he is showing some athletic prowess. We talked about that in the other segment. In what way? And is speed skating or kayaking a possibility?
He's great on skates for a 3-year-old when he was on skates.
Okay.
If he wants to.
So he can ice skate.
He can ice skate. Oh yeah,
okay.
Yeah, he can ice skate. He's got a great feel, which is one of those intangibles, a great feel for the kinds of sports that I was good at. So, track and swimming and he has a phenomenal sort of body awareness.
Right.
He's 4.
Yeah.
I will say this. I think he's probably more talented than either of us, potentially.
Really?
But I'll also say neither of us have any desire to push him towards sports.
Yeah.
We want him to do it because we want him active. But I think having both been Olympians, people think like, oh, you must think he's going to be, you must want to be a great athlete. It's such a lottery of personality and timing and finding a sport that both of us think if he finds something he loves, we would love for him to do it. We'll be the most supportive parents. But we will push him to nothing. If he doesn't want to do another day of sport, it's fine with me. If he wants to go be we joke he'll be a poet or a cellist or something because we were both athletes. But it's really cool watching him. I'm a very proud dad. He's my favorite thing to talk about.
It should be. Very proud, beautiful family.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing them with us here for just a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about, so you moved back to Greensboro, and this job opens up in the Greensboro Chamber. Can you kind of tell me about how that came about and why was this position so appealing to you?
Yeah, so I had left the firm I was with and the company I'd co-founded, and I was casting about. I called it Dad Summer, just taking the summer off because I've been working crazy hours. And I bumped into a guy named Clifford Thompson. Now, Clifford Thompson is like the mayor of Greensboro. I'll say this, and you'll probably get 800 viewers will say, I know Clifford.
I know Clifford Thompson.
Clifford's the president of Thompson Traders. It's a local company doing great business. They create beautiful sinks, and they're in Tanger Center and Transform GSO, a bunch of buildings.
I remember seeing them being installed in the Tanger Center.
Very cool.
When the former director, Matt Brown, gave me a tour as it was being built. Yeah.
Okay, so you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I know exactly,
I met Clifford at a downtown Greensboro event.
Okay.
My wife had kicked me out. You're driving us crazy. Get out of the house. Go see what's happening in Greensboro. And we started chatting, and I said, look, I was in tech. I was in venture capital. I want to get back into that. There's nothing here.
Right.
And he said, well, you want to start it? And I said, tell me more.
Right.
I met with Brent Christensen, the CEO. They had posted the job.
Of the chamber.
Chamber. I sat down with him, and there were some other folks who were applying for the position. And whether this is what helped me get it or not, but I articulated a vision for what I thought was possible if we can create a real startup community in Greensboro. And it has been thrilling. So when I talk about my career, and I tell you this has been orders of magnitude my favorite thing I've ever done since speed skating. I will also say speed skating is probably still better. But we're talking it's real close. The fact that I can say that, and it's been phenomenal. I love what I do.
Now, as part of this position, you helped create and launch something called Launch Greensboro.
Well, Launch Greensboro was already up and running.
Okay.
Yeah. So I took over.
Thank you for correcting me. Okay, so you took that over, and this helps entrepreneurs get off the ground.
That's right.
And I've got some video of you and I walking through Launch Greensboro, the offices there on Elm Street last year. Tell me what exactly is Launch Greensboro and what separates it from the standard business incubator?
Sure. I'll say this. The biggest difference between what we do, all the business incubators, we help entrepreneurs start and scale businesses.
Right.
So that is their base level.
So you have offices here.
Sure.
In this, that's what we're looking at here.
Yeah. We have offices. We run programs. So if you want to start a business, we got a weekend boot camp. You can come in and we'll teach you how to start a business.
Right.
If you have a business up and running, we have up to a 14-week accelerator where you can go and we will tear down every part of your existing business. We'll look at your operations, your finance, your marketing, your product, your strategy. And we'll help you build a growth plan to get that business either, if you're a small business person, we aim to hit you to hit 7 figures a year in revenue in 3 years. If you're a startup, we aim for you to get funded in the next 12 months.
Right.
The difference between what I think we do and what everyone else does, and I lifted this from a lot of the stuff I learned at that San Francisco-based startup studio that I was at. I saw all this excellence, is we are extremely hands-on with our entrepreneurs and helping them build out how they're going to sell the thing.
Right.
Whatever the thing is. We help them understand exactly how much each unit's going to cost, how much it's going to cost to market, and how you're going to get it to people. And that sounds obvious, right?
Yeah.
Most places will teach you how to do it. We want to do it with you. We're going to get in there hands-on. We don't take equity. We don't take any of your company.
Right.
We just want to see successful businesses in the triad.
Since you've been in this position, do you have some numbers on how many businesses you've helped start? Maybe a ballpark figure?
Yeah. Oh, so we track that pretty closely. I don't know exactly since I have taken over, what my exact tenure is. It's in the 75 to 125 range.
Right.
The ones that we help a lot of businesses. So if anyone has a business they're even starting on, we'll help. If not us, we'll help connect you to resources. Okay. We do that a lot. That number is probably 125, 150 in the last year and a half or so. But we do cohorts of businesses where we spend 14 weeks with them. Those companies, I'm extremely excited about the ones we've worked with hands-on for many months in a row. We've worked with a company called Pavera Loads and Logic. It was a startup. They came to our very first boot camp.
Yeah.
They're about to hit, I'll hand wave at it, 7 figures in revenue, but it's an aerospace consulting and tech platform for aerospace companies, relevant to what we're seeing with development.
Absolutely. We'll talk about that here in a few seconds.
So he's a former stress engineer. He had an idea for a company. We helped him get started. We helped him narrow the scope and focus on the clients and which way to go. And he's brilliant. He's done the bulk of the work.
Yeah.
But we got to help do a lot of that support structure. We have worked with a great company that just came out of our last cohort, a company called Estes Beauty. That is doing a skincare for scars. 2 wonderful founders. One of them was a former executive at Chanel and L'Oreal. Another founder is actually in California.
Okay, so they're doing, is it a lotion to put on scars?
It's a skincare routine.
Oh, okay.
And so they won our Capital Connects, our annual pitch
Yes, your competition. Yeah.
And they're doing great revenue numbers, doubling, every year revenue as they're going forward. So we are working with a wide swath of businesses.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to be good at all of them.
Right.
But the stuff that we're trying to be good at is common across all businesses.
A couple of newsy questions here. About 20% of businesses fail during the first 2 years of being open, 45% during the first 5 years, 65% during the first 10 years. What's the number one issue as to why these businesses fail, do you think? Based on what you've seen and being the former owner of a business that failed.
Yeah. All right, you want the number one reason?
Yeah, I have in television. I kind of have to narrow it down.
All right. Well, let's take chance out of it because chance actually plays a really big part of it.
All right.
But I would say the number one reason that businesses fail that is in the hands of the entrepreneur is lack of focus.
Okay.
What happens is you start a business. Every person you know is going to come tell you, hey, that's great. You know what you should do? You should do this thing you're doing, but do this other way. Or, oh, that's really cool. Have you thought about adding this? And you start chasing that because you think, oh, I need this. Or the worst part, you get a customer who needs one specific, very difficult thing, and they're willing to pay you. And you go, God, I need this money.
Yeah.
But it's not right on my mission, but I need this money. And people start chasing too many things, and then you run out of time, energy, and money. So I'd say lack of focus.
What is the number one thing Greensboro is lacking when it comes to being more conducive to starting a business? And you and I talked about this last time. What would you like to see Greensboro develop or have?
I bet you this is what I said. I'm curious to see because I don't remember. I need more founders.
Yeah.
Is that the same thing I said before?
Yeah, we talked about, density of founders.
Perfect.
Yes, we talked about that.
Yeah.
Yes, density of founders.
I need more people with giant ideas who are willing to take the leap.
Okay.
That is it. So you mentioned those numbers.
Yes.
Numbers of businesses that fail.
Absolutely.
I say it's worse than that. I think it's not even that high.
That would not surprise me.
And what I would say is this. Society is too hard on businesses that fail.
Interesting.
They say, "Oh, this is terrible. It's too scary. You should." We as a
people
society,
don't like change.
They don't like change.
Yeah.
And I would argue this: almost no one is good at this right away, and the only way you can do it is trying it, and you will probably fail. And so, do not be scared of that. It's almost never terminal.
Right.
And the more you try, the better you're going to get. The number one factor for whether or not a business raises money is whether the founder has started another business, not whether they have started a successful business. But if you've raised money or started a company before, even if it failed, that person is more likely to raise money again than a new founder with a great idea and a great business team and whatever. Right. So starting the business is the hardest part.
Yeah.
And the thing that most people are scared to do. So I need more of them.
More of them. And when you talk about the density, to more people to say, hey, you can do this. I mean.
Yeah, and more idea exchange, right? So let's say you start your business and you're doing it in your bedroom by yourself. It's very hard. It's very lonely and you get in your own head. But if you're around other founders, a lot of times these problems have been solved. Hey, I can't, I'm not getting, my Facebook ads aren't working. Why is that?
And they have an answer.
And they've got an answer.
Yeah.
And it sounds so trivial, right? Like that's it?
Yeah.
But imagine, how about this? Imagine trying to be a great basketball player.
Yeah.
But you never play with any other players. You just watch it on TV.
Right.
How good are you going to get?
Yeah.
In this sense, right? If you come together, come hang out with us at Transform, get a co-working space, like $75 a month if you want to get out of the house. Come be with us at Transform. You'll see other entrepreneurs. You'll see what they're doing. You can talk to them. Most entrepreneurs love telling you what they're working on.
Right.
You'll get better.
For someone who may be sitting here watching this and they're thinking about starting a business, what's your biggest message to him or her?
Action beats great ideas.
Okay. Meaning?
Everyone thinks they got a great idea.
Yeah.
There are almost no real great ideas. I've heard maybe 2 in 1,000 pitches that are like, oh, that's actually a really great idea. Most ideas are not, they're done. They've been done in some way.
Right.
And so the most important thing is that you are action oriented. The best entrepreneurs we see are the ones who, I tried this and I tried 3 other things. It didn't work. Right. And they come to us and we say, did you try this? And they go, no. And they come back an hour later and it's tried.
Right.
So if you want to do something, start it. You are not going to know, but taking the action is more important than being smart, than knowing the answer, than knowing exactly how you're going to solve the problem. Just start.
And another thing you told me last year when I asked you that question is say, how do you take it to the next step?
Yeah.
If you start out wanting to market to just Greensboro, how are you going to take it statewide, nationally, worldwide?
Yeah, so that's the ambition part of it.
Right.
Ironically, it is about as hard. Actually, I've seen some coffee shops. We've worked with some coffee shops.
Yeah.
Brick and mortar is so hard.
Yeah.
It is as hard to start a small idea as it is to start a big idea.
Yeah.
And Blake, the founder of Boom, says this religiously, and I've sort of stolen some of his best quotes.
Right.
It's just as hard to go start a $1 billion company as it is to start a $1 million company, as it is to start a $100,000 company.
All right.
So go for the big idea.
Yeah. All right. In the interest of time, I'm going to speed up a little bit. And you brought up Boom.
Let's do it.
You have said startups are our next mega site. We, of course, have had the big Boom supersonic Jet Zero announcement. There's Jet Zero, and I've got some Boom video in here as well. You and I were talking about this, but these companies started as startups, and you would argue they're still startups.
I would. So they're big startups. Boom's raised, I think, $580 million or something.
Yeah.
They haven't built their first passenger plane yet, right? I mean, and they're going to. I believe in them. They're doing incredible work.
Yeah.
But these are still startups. They're huge startups. Boom went through an accelerator called Y Combinator. It's the most famous accelerator in the world. And this is the thing I'm most jazzed about, right? We now have two companies here in Greensboro, Boom and Jet Zero, but we've got great aerospace here.
Right.
Great aerospace.
There's Boom, yes.
People will look at this and realize that once upon a time, this was somebody, maybe just like them, who had an idea and said, look, this is a big thing. It can be a huge deal, and it's real here. It's not like Boeing started 100 years ago. I can never start Boeing. These things did exist a few years ago. They were an idea.
Yeah.
And we can do that. And that's the thrilling, that gets me up every morning and gets me excited. And there are industries now that we are, with Boom and Jet Zero, these are cutting edge consumer or commercial jet manufacturers built here, nowhere else.
Yeah.
We will have the most advanced commercial jet aerospace manufacturing in the whole country.
Yeah, and between those two companies, 18,000 people, quite possibly working. We could stay all day talking about this and other things, but I wanted to bring this to a close, and we're running out of time. I always ask my guests in this format the keys to their success. I mean, if you were to go back and look over your entire career, and you're still very young, especially compared to yours truly, but what do you think has been the key?
I'll say...
Was it your growing up in Greensboro, something you learned, values your mom taught you?
I'll tell you this, I have always been the best at the things that I've loved the most.
Ooh, love that.
If you don't enjoy doing something, it's real hard to do it 12 hours a day. So if you find something that you really love doing, you almost can't stop yourself from doing it. Sometimes you got to work to find a way to make a living. But if I had one key, and I look back in my life, I was my best whenever I loved the thing I was doing.
And with that, we'll bring this to a close. Joey Cheek, it's an honor. Always a lot of fun talking with you.
Thank you.
I really, really appreciate it. And we thank you for joining us for this edition of Newsmakers, The Road to Success. I'm Neil McNeil. We'll see you next time right here on My Fox 8 Plus.